stretching. Stretching is so key. That is why physical therapists use it for people who are suffering from aches and pains and minor injuries and such, because stretching helps you to heal and recover from them. And that's the first thing you should be doing after, getting enough food and sleep, is allocating some time from your schedule to do some stretches of at least the muscles that you trained in the last 24 hours. And even more ideally beyond that, the entire spine should be stretched, optimally every single day, okay? So for your health, you want to be ideally stretching out the whole body almost every day, but I get that especially when you are training more and more, you're going to have less time for that, but you at the very least need to be stretching your spine enough, your hips enough, your shoulders enough, and the muscles that you just trained, okay? So make sure you do that, and if you do not know how, it is because you did not watch my class on health training back in part 3, which was, at the very beginning, it was like class 3, I think it was. So make sure that you watch that, because in that video I teach you how to stretch every single muscle and joint in your body. I teach you everything you need to know about stretching and flexibility, and that is going to be a huge key in your recovery, all right? Stretching really helps. It is actually hypertrophic, okay? It's going to help you to make more hypertrophy adaptations because A, it is causing muscular tension, and tension is what causes damage, which then causes hypertrophy and growth. And B, it is applying that tension under stretch. It is stretching out your muscle as much as you possibly can. And you should know from the phase on hypertrophy, phase number 5, that is especially hypertrophic. Stretches are more hypertrophic than contractions. So stretching helps you to recover from your hypertrophy training and adds more hypertrophic stimulus to it on top of that. So when you have done all of the volume that you can do in a single day, you can still add more to that by stretching and make sure your body recovers optimally to its best potential by stretching. So you never want to skip out on stretching your muscles after training them, all right? That is seriously limiting to you. And anyone who gets injured and then talks to me about it and asks me for help with recovering from their injury, I tell them the same thing that physical therapists tell them, which is to stretch the area in question. And I also always ask them if they had been stretching regularly prior to getting injured. And guess what? The answer is always no. The people I meet who get injured have always been forgetting to stretch. So that's some really important anecdotal evidence for you there. And if you don't have time for a lot of stretching, you don't have to do a lot of it, okay? You only really have to stretch the muscles that you worked, and do some basic stuff for your spine, all right? But there's also some other things that you can be doing for your body and recovery, such as taking a hot saltwater bath. And there are 2 salts that you want to use to make your salt bath. One is Epsom salts or magnesium sulfate, and the other is actually common baking soda, which is sodium bicarbonate. And these are 2 essential minerals that are basically like building blocks in the mineral kingdom. And they're very important minerals for the body to have. Magnesium, of course, is an important supplement that I mentioned earlier, and with magnesium sulfate or Epsom salts in a bath, you are able to give your muscles and joints a lot more of it, all right? And sodium bicarbonate actually does very similar things, but of course it's a different mineral. And so what the hot salt bath will do is the hot water will hydrate you more and will really relax your muscles and help to loosen up the tissue and the tension and everything. And then it will also get your blood pumping. All right, and that's very helpful in getting metabolites to and from the muscles, and it will help to heal inflammation and will relax away aches and pains. And when you add these 2 salts to that, they have an even more therapeutic effect because these 2 minerals are actually like forms of medicines or supplements. And so they really help to fight inflammation. They can even help things like bruising and sprains to heal faster. They really help with your recovery. They have a number of different health benefits. So hot salt baths are a really powerful recovery protocol, and you want to use at least 1 cup of each. You could even do 2, especially with the Epsom salt, and get that water nice and salty and bathe in it for 15 to 30 minutes. It only takes 15 minutes at least, but I do recommend opting for the full 30. And if you did not train recently, like within the last 4 hours at least, you could also use cold water in addition to hot. Cold is both analgesic, meaning that it is a painkiller, and it's anti-inflammatory, meaning that it fights inflammation and swelling and such. And so this is why the first thing you do when you get hurt is to apply cold, right? You know, the first thing that we do is to get the ice pack. Everyone knows this because it will help make you feel better and stop any swelling and inflammation that is taking place. So the same thing applies for recovering from intense work. All right. And also what is great about cold therapy is that it causes your brain to secrete endorphins. So it will give you quite a rush depending on how cold you make it. So that's a even more powerful tool, especially when you are having, even worse aches and pains and inflammation. The cold treatment is a very effective analgesic. However, the reason you do not want to do this if you have trained in the last 4 hours or so is because, like with the anti-inflammatory drug ibuprofen and such, it will actually limit some of your hypertrophy. Since that's an inflammatory response, some of the inflammation that you are causing to go away will be hypertrophy adaptations. So you want to make sure you only use the cold water therapy 4 hours or more away from training, and just minimize it. Only use as much as you absolutely need. All right, I've seen certain people showing off by hopping in a bathtub full of ice, and that's just not necessary or good for you if you are doing hypertrophy training. However, a little bit of cold water can actually go a long way and really be helpful. And what is even better is using both. Doing both hot and cold and alternating back and forth between the two has an actually synergistic effect. And that's not just because you are getting the benefits and the best of both worlds with the hot and the cold, but the alternating hot and cold causes vasodilation and vasoconstriction. It basically is causing your blood vessels to expand and contract and to then pump the blood really hard. So it's almost like a type of cardiovascular exercise itself and is a very powerful effect. And this is a recovery protocol that I personally use kind of a lot whenever I can, really, whenever I'm bathing and it's far enough away from my training that I can use the cold. What I will do is I will start with a hot salt bath with the temperature basically as high as I can stand it to have the maximum effect. And after I can't stand that anymore, I will then start using the cold. And while the bathtub drains, I'll use the shower to go back and forth from cold to hot and cold to hot. And that is a really powerful thing to do. It not only helps with recovery, but it also causes your brain to secrete endorphins like adrenaline and dopamine, so it really makes you feel great. And if I ever have some really extreme aches and pains that I need to recover from quickly, because it's like the high point in the season and I can just take more time to recover, what I will do is I will actually have a cold salt bath. And then, after I can't stand that anymore, which won't be very long, about 5 minutes or so, I will then start going back and forth again between the hot and the cold. So that's something that I use in more extreme circumstances. The cold baths are really intense. All right, but the hot and cold therapy are both really great recovery tools, and don't just take it from me. These things are really, really potent. You gotta just try it yourself. Once you try it, you will see how effective it is. And the last recovery protocol that can be very helpful, especially if you are trying to build muscle, is getting a massage. And there's so many different types of massage that you can get, and they're all good for their own purposes, but the best one to get if you are trying to build muscle, and are doing hypertrophy training, is a deep tissue massage. And obviously have the masseuse focus most of their efforts on any problematic muscles and joints you may have. But if you cannot afford a professional masseuse, as many of us cannot, you can always ask a loved one to massage you a bit. And while they won't be able to give you the professional treatment, they can at least get any knots or extreme tightness out. And you can basically help them do this by just having them place their elbow on a knot or a muscle that's really tight and then lean their body weight on it and maybe even give it a little bit of a wiggle, and that will really help to, disperse any knots and muscle tension you may have stored there. All right, and if you cannot do that, what you can then do is to get yourself a massage wand that you can, massage any kinks and knots and tension out of your own back with, or using this, out of your other muscles with. Or if that's not enough, get yourself a vibrating massage wand or massage gun. And these are really great because you can use them in a chair and then lean back, and use the force of your body weight. This is something I massage every muscle in my body with at different times, when it needs it. So this is an extremely useful recovery tool. So one way or another, whatever option you go with here, giving your muscles massages is the last recovery protocol that you need to have in your arsenal and be using, especially when you are training for hypertrophy. That is going to be one of the best ways to alleviate aches and pains and disperse any knots and kinks and tension. So those are all of the recovery protocols that you need to know and be using in order to maximize your R&R, in order to thus then maximize your gains and growth.